Vasu Jakkal, Corporate Vice President at Microsoft Security, Compliance, Identity, and Privacy, joins me for a conversation today around leadership. Vasu is responsible for a $15 billion plus security, compliance, identity management, and privacy business and marketing at Microsoft, serving as the directly responsible individual to Microsoft's CEO and senior leadership team, working across all functions to drive Microsoft's security strategy and growth. I've invited Vasu today to talk to me about leadership, but also talk about her background and her journey. So Vasu, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Really cool to have you.
Oh, Rashan, thank you so much for having me. It's such a treat and such a pleasure and privilege, really, to be here.
Thank you very much. I want to talk about your background. Obviously, I shared a little bit there in my introduction around your profile and in terms of your functionality and your responsibility today. But I would really love to learn about you, Vasu, in terms of your background, in terms of where it all started and how you got to the place that you're at today.
Okay, that sounds great. And maybe I can start with my very beginnings into the corporate world. There's so many stories out there. I was thinking about Rashan, and let me start with my first real job and what I learned, which I feel like have set the foundations for my career. So my first job was when I joined Intel, the semiconductor company, right out of graduate school. And I was an engineer, a silicon engineer, chip designer. And it was very inspiring to be part of this incredible innovation industry. Really, my first experience in corporate America. I'm an immigrant. I came here on a scholarship, and I hold that very near and dear to my heart. Some things I learned which have helped me even today. The first one is be curious. Curiosity really is key. And I remember that first job, like walking in, it can be very overwhelming to be a fresh graduate and enter a corporate world. And there's so many people who know so much. But I learned that the more questions you ask and the more thoughtful you are about those questions, you learn. And so being curious, asking questions, being thoughtful about it was something which I use to date to just get clarity around things. So that was my first lesson is curiosity really is key, and asking the right questions is half the way to defining what success looks like. The second one I learned was collaboration. Life is a team sport. Work certainly is a team sport. And that very cliched saying where there's no I in team, it's so true. I realized when I joined the workforce, as much as I want to do things by myself and alone, and there are things we all need to do, I was developing code, but to really move mountains, you need the team. And that famous African proverb, I know your ancestors are from South Africa as well. It's if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go further, go together. So collaboration and team sport matters. The third thing, Rishan, was being brave. And really being brave is important and it's uncomfortable, but it is being authentic to who you are. And I'm a big believer in that authenticity. And then the last one, talking about belief, is believing in yourself. As you enter the workforce and you're new and you're just taking those first very vital, important steps, it can be scary. But there's a reason that you're there, and you may offer something which is so fresh and have that perspective. I certainly felt like that. It goes back to the curiosity questions. And so just really believe in yourself and what you bring to the table, and don't be afraid to share that with your team. So those were some of the learnings which helped me to date.
Your level of clarity with that is exceptional, I got to tell you. Like, thank you so much for sharing that around being curious and what that really means. And then also the collaboration element in terms of operating with people in an ecosystem around you. And then also being brave with what you know and being confident as well, right? And fueling your impact based on those three different layers. I love that. I want to talk to you a little bit about your leadership themes and principles, because you've obviously had a tremendous impact. You're responsible for a very large business, large organization that touches multiple different organizations and industries across the globe and representing Microsoft at the same time. I'd love to learn about some of the themes and principles you applied when you think about like some of the cool things that you've achieved in terms of accolades around. One of the things I got was your recognition from Forbes as the CMO next, and also being part of the top 25 women in cybersecurity, and then the top 10 best CMOs, like some pretty cool accolades. So I'd love to learn about some of your themes and principles in terms of how you make an impact and operate that with your team.
Yeah, so first, thank you for all those kind words. I have to start by saying that while all those accolades and are really a reflection of the team that I have, is the work that the team puts in, and it's theirs. It's not really mine. So that I just wanted to start with that. You know, I love frameworks. You probably have got onto that by now. So I will say that my themes and principles fall under the P, the alphabet P framework, and there are 5 of them. So I'll give those to you. The first one is purpose. Okay. Starting with the purpose. It took me a long time, Rashan, and a great mentor to really push me on what was my personal purpose in life. And, you know, it evolves, but there's just some anchors to it. And that self-reflection and self-awareness and what is your purpose? So I love really starting with the why. And when your self-purpose meets organizational purpose and the world purpose, magic starts happening. So the first thing, my first theme, my first principle is P for purpose. The second P is possibilities. I love dreaming big. I love it. Like I was born with sci-fi. I like to think about it. I was influenced by sci-fi. I'm a hardcore Trekkie. So live long and prosper for all you Star Trek fans out there. So I always believe that you've got to like have big dreams and, you know, change the world, innovation. And so those possibilities and that possibility thinking on what can we do? What does that look like is important. So the second P is possibilities. The third P for me is positivity. In my heart, I'm an optimist. At my heart, I'm an optimist. So it's just there's so much to be grateful for. You can look at anything in life and you can say, well, there's all the stuff which is wrong about it. And you can look at that very same thing and you can say, my goodness, there's all this stuff to be grateful about. So being positive, especially right now when there's so much change around us and disruption, it can feel very helpless. But leaning into that positivity has always really, really helped me. And so my third P is positivity. My fourth P is passion. Passion for everything, you know, for life. Have that passion. When you do things which makes your heart sing, things just like start shining and you do magic. I believe that. So have passion for learning, have passion for curiosity, have passion and playful body, like give it your all, you know, think about like what is that additional thing you can do, whether it's at work or home, with your team, with your family, like how can you drive that true excellence? And true excellence comes with true passion. And then the last thing, bringing my framework to a completion here is people. That's my fifth P, because ultimately we all work with people. We love people, we need people, we are people. So it's all about the people and being human centric in the innovation we drive, in the businesses we run, with our teams, like keeping our teams at the heart of it, making sure that we are leading with empathy and with compassion and truly understanding that, having diversity and being inclusive and making sure that we think about people in a very holistic sense, with them at the heart is important to me. So purpose, possibilities, positivity, passion, and people. That's my framework. Those are my themes.
Love the leadership clarity there, right? Just in terms of how you operate with your team and how you build these themes and principles of activation around getting the best out of everybody and also being so authentic and clear about it. It does reflect your ability to be such an inspirational humanist. And I want to touch on security a little bit, not in the technology fashion, right? Because your role responsible for security, I always feel like when you talk about security, like especially at your level with the autonomy you have, one decision will create a very ripple impact against multiple different facets of the organization, right? So I'd love to learn a little bit about what's your art and science when you think about the humanist approach that you've just talked about around leadership, but then also the technologist approach when you think about security, and how do you merge those two together and drive forward success?
Yeah, so I love security deeply. I believe security is the defining challenge for our world because without security, Rashan, we lose trust in the very things we need to live. Like you and I wouldn't be able to have this conversation without technology, and without security, we wouldn't be able to trust the technology, the very technology we need to work, to play, to live. So security is incredibly important for our world, and security takes that magical confluence of people and technology. People are the greatest strength in security, and people often are also the weakest link in security, and people cannot scale without technology. My approach towards how do we take this very technologist and humanist approach to a security has always been one of stepping back and seeing the forest before the trees. Remember, I told you I love possibilities and start and purpose, and starting with the why. So what is the purpose that we're trying to solve? What is our mission in security? Is to build a safer world. Great. So that's our North Star. That's our mission. What do we need to develop that? We at Microsoft have said we want to provide the easy button of security. That's our strategy, our North Star to deliver on that mission. Great. Then what are the sub strategies that we need? What is the strategic plan? And then what is the component from a human and tech standpoint? How do we really bring this to fruition? So for the security world, and for leading the security, and for our business, which is very inspiring, my approach has always been one of start with the strategy, have clarity in vision, in mission, and then have a really great operational plan, develop key priorities that you can execute, have clarity in metrics and success and what you need, and then clarity in roles and responsibilities. I'm a big fan of that. So everyone knows what they're supposed to accomplish, and the team knows how they're supposed to work together. So those are some of the things that I have leveraged in my approach. Lastly, you mentioned humanist in your approach, and I love, love, love that word. All of this sounds great on paper, right? All of this sounds great when I'm talking to you. But you know what? The reality is it's super messy. And the reason it's messy is people. We are messy. And so it requires this adaptive change thinking. Everything we do requires change management. How are you engaging people, inspiring them? How do we help people understand their parts and their purposes in this? And how do you help them move along the way? Because when someone believes, oh my God, this is the best thing that I need to do, and this is where I can be my best self, then really you're harnessing the power of the human potential to meet the challenge that we need. So those are some of the things that I believe in and that we've used for our business.
You talk a lot about taking a step back and learning, right? And just operating with a very, very, very high level of a growth mindset in terms of learning, listening, staying curious, enabling ourselves with the right levels of information and education and skilling to define the right levels of clarity to go and make an impact. So I'd be curious to learn about, and I've listened to some of your talks prior to this as well, right? You've put a lot of emphasis in multiple of the messages that you've shared around skilling, around learning, around staying curious, as you talked about it earlier on, right? So I'd love to hear a little bit more around how do you cultivate that type of thinking and theme within your organization around how to stay curious and how to continue with skilling and learning.
First of all, I would say that being curious is really where it starts, and making sure that you are incorporating it in your everyday as well, because there are two aspects to this, Rishan. One is carving out time for creative space and making sure that you are giving a time, like thoughtful time for learning and being creative. But secondly, what we do in the everyday, in the every moment, that creates great learning opportunities. Sometimes we think of learning as these big things. We think
Right.
of learning as this big strategic thing that I need to learn. And that is very true. And we should carve that time. We should go read great books. We should listen to great podcasts, things like what you're doing. We should watch great videos of inspirational things. We should go to school and learn lessons. Of course, check, check. But really, the everyday learning happens when you're in those trenches and on the front lines and you're doing your work. And learning could mean as simple as learning a simple best practice in how I'm going to run a better meeting, how I'm going to show up better, how I'm going to tell a story better. How can I make this job a little bit better? And that learning to me happens every single day. And every conversation we have, I am learning from you today on how to be, what to do, the things that are. So, I think we need to change what learning means sometimes. And learning is something we as humans are doing every day. So in my perspective and with my team, all the work, we do such amazing work, like, wow, like it's such an opportunity. Learning in that, how can we better? What are we learning from each other? Taking that down is important. And then also carving creative space. And I'll be the first one to say we're not really great at that. I'm not really great at that. So we're learning to do better there. For that, I think prioritization is key. When you prioritize, when you simplify your lives and your work journeys, then you can have the creative space for people to learn the big things and take time to do the things I talked about, like maybe it's watching a video or taking a class or some other thing.
Wow. It's really being intentional with it, right? And role modeling. I'm hearing a lot of role modeling from yourself in terms of how you model that type of behavior and be intentional with it as well in terms of how you prioritize what is important and how you embrace all these different elements that contribute to the definition of training and skilling. Looking back at your journey, Vasu, like if you were to think of, in addition to modeling times around being intentional with skilling and learning, what are some of the things you'd say you are most proud of your leadership journey?
What am I most proud of? I think if I look back at all the things, there's so much to be proud of. There's the great businesses that we built that we need to be proud of. There's the great strategies that we led that we need to be proud of. There's the talent and the people. But if I come back to it, the things that make me really proud of, the one thing I'll leave you, it is that very compassion that we get to bring to our workplace. Is that intention? You use the word intention. Is that intention? And I'm really proud of our Microsoft culture, Rashan. I'm really proud that we can create a place where everyone can be their best self, where we are empowering the world and every single employee at Microsoft to achieve more. So I think I'm proud of that we have the privilege and the opportunity to create places where people can be their authentic best selves, live with intentionality, and do more to make our world a better place.
Talking about culture, talking about, proud moments within culture, you've often talked about insecurity, specifically diversity, and not just from a gender perspective, from a data expert perspective, from a language expert perspective. And I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you're thinking about diversity, specifically in security.
Yeah, and diversity is such a big word, but
Yeah.
sometimes, there's so many deeper meanings to it. So diversity to me means many things, but ultimately, I think without diversity, you cannot really build the technology or the innovations or an organization that you need for success. How can we when we don't include the world? So in the case of cybersecurity, attacks come from everywhere. They come from all backgrounds, they come from all ethnicities, they come from all races, from all over the world. So if our defenders do not reflect the diversity that our attackers have and the diversity that the world represents, how can we do great security? So that is at the heart of my philosophy and diversity. And there are still heartbreaking stats. If I look at gender diversity, to give you an example, there isn't parity in security. We've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. And that, is something which I'm passionate about. I have many examples where a diverse point of view has helped really anchor us in what we need to do and help us like take a moment to pause and step back to come up with the right solution. So I think diversity is important to our society. And even if I think about some of the incredible innovations that I'm passionate about, which I think are going to be game changing, like AI, doing AI responsibly, making sure that we have diverse people building AI. So it just doesn't reflect, one cognitive swim lane, Rishan, like it is looking at all the cognitive swim lanes that we have is going to be really important. So diversity matters. And along with diversity, inclusion matters. Someone told me this great phrase, and I can't remember the name of the author. It said if diversity is like inviting someone to a party, then inclusion is asking them to dance. And we do want to dance, don't we? So it is really important for us to create those inclusive places where our diverse populations can feel like they can do their best work.
I love that. Vasu, I can spend so much time talking to you. You're such a fountain of knowledge and great advice and lessons along the way, but I know I gotta let you go. So I want to ask you one last question before I let you go, and that is, long, long from now, much further down the line when it's time to say goodbye to the journey, what are some of the things you'd want to be remembered for?
I think I would love to be remembered for creating possibilities and driving amazing growth, personal growth, business growth for everyone with compassion at its heart.
Thank you so much. I love that. What a great way to end it, Vasu. I appreciate the conversation. Great learning opportunity for me, and
And
looking
I
forward
have
to
learned so much from you as well, Rishad. So thank you for the opportunity. Stay bright, stay amazing. You bring this incredible energy and this incredible podcast to so many. So I wish you all my very best. And it's truly been such a privilege and honor being here. So thank you again.
Thank you very much for the kind words. I appreciate that.